My 5-year-old looked me dead in the eyes and whispered, "Mommy, Daddy does bad things when you're sleeping." I laughed it off as a nightmare. But 3 nights later, I installed a hidden camera in our bedroom. And what I discovered made my blood run cold. This is my story, and I'm sharing it because every parent needs to hear this warning. Watch until the end, your family's safety might depend on it. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't believe what happens next. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Aunt Clara, and welcome back to Tales with Aunt Clara, where I share real stories from real people navigating life's most challenging moments. Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. This story contains twists you absolutely cannot miss, and I post life-changing stories like this 3 times a week. Today's story comes from a listener I'll call Sarah. She's a 32-year-old mother of 2 from a quiet suburban neighborhood where nothing ever seems to go wrong. She had what everyone called the perfect marriage: a successful husband, 2 beautiful children, and a home that looked like it came straight out of a magazine. But perfection, as we all know, is often just an illusion. And sometimes, the most terrifying truths hide behind the most ordinary faces. This is Sarah's story, told in her own words. And I promise you, this is unlike anything you've ever heard before. It started on a Tuesday night in October. I remember because it was my son Tommy's 5th birthday, and we'd just finished cleaning up after his party. My husband Marcus had been unusually quiet all evening, but I chalked it up to exhaustion. He'd been working late for weeks, closing some big deal at his firm. I was tucking Tommy into bed when he grabbed my hand with that serious look children get when they're about to say something they think is important. "Mommy," he whispered, glancing toward the door, "I need to tell you a secret." "About Daddy?" I smiled, expecting him to say something sweet or silly. Kids always have secrets at that age. "What is it, sweetheart?" Tommy's little face scrunched up with worry. "Daddy does bad things when you're sleeping. He talks to the walls and he takes things." My heart squeezed. "Takes things? What do you mean?" "I can't tell you more," he said, his eyes welling up with tears. "Daddy said if I tell, the shadow people will come get me." Shadow people? I felt a chill but pushed it away. Tommy had always had vivid nightmares, especially after watching anything remotely scary. Marcus and I had talked to his pediatrician about it months ago. "Tommy, baby, Daddy would never let anything hurt you. You probably just had a bad dream." But Tommy shook his head violently. "No, Mommy. I saw it. I saw it. Please, you have to believe me." He was getting hysterical, so I held him close and rocked him until he calmed down. I promised I'd talk to Daddy, and eventually, Tommy fell asleep clutching his stuffed elephant. When I went downstairs, Marcus was in his office, door closed as usual. I knocked and peeked in. "Hey," Tommy said, "something strange tonight." "Not now, Sarah." Marcus cut me off without looking up from his laptop. "I'm in the middle of something." His tone was sharp, dismissive. It stung, but I backed away. We'd been married for 8 years, and lately, these moments of coldness had become more frequent. I told myself it was stress, work pressure, the demands of parenting. I told myself a lot of things to avoid facing the truth. Over the next few days, I started noticing things. Small things that individually meant nothing, but together painted a disturbing picture. Marcus had always been a sound sleeper, but now I'd wake up at 2 or 3 a.m. to find his side of the bed empty. The first time, I went looking for him and found him in the garage, just standing there in the dark, staring at the wall. "Marcus? Are you okay?" He jumped like I'd electrocuted him. "Jesus, Sarah. You scared me. What are you doing out here?" I couldn't sleep. Just clearing my head. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Go back to bed. I'll be in soon." But he wasn't. When I woke up the next morning, he was already gone for work, and there was a strange chemical smell in the garage I couldn't identify. Then there were the phone calls. Marcus had always been glued to his phone for work, but now he'd leave the room every time it rang. He'd changed his passcode to something he'd never done in all our years together. When I asked about it, he laughed it off. "Just had to update some security settings. You know how paranoid my company is about data breaches." Our daughter Emma, who was 7, started acting strange too. She wouldn't go near her father. During dinner, she'd sit as far from him as possible, and when he tried to hug her goodnight, she'd stiffen like a board. "Emma, Don't be rude to your father, I'd say, embarrassed by her behavior. But Emma would just look at me with these huge, frightened eyes and run to her room. Tommy's warnings became more frequent and more specific. Mommy, Daddy brought another box to the garage last night. The bat box. Mommy, Daddy was talking to someone in his office, but no one was there. Mommy, please check the garage. Please. I was torn between concern for my son's apparent anxiety and loyalty to my husband. Marcus had never given me any reason not to trust him. He was a devoted father, a good provider, active in our community. People respected him. But children, I've learned, have instincts that we adults have trained ourselves to ignore. It was my best friend Rachel who finally pushed me to act. We were having coffee at her place while the kids played. I confided in her about Tommy's behavior, expecting her to reassure me that it was just a phase. Instead, her face went pale. Sarah, she said carefully, do you remember my cousin Melissa? I nodded. Melissa had gone through a terrible divorce. She ignored signs like this. Her daughter tried to tell her things about her husband, and she didn't listen because he seemed so normal, so respectable. Turns out he was living a double life. I'm not saying Marcus is doing that, but trust your kids' instincts. And trust your own. That night, I made a decision that would change everything. I ordered a small, hidden camera online. The kind advertised for home security, disguised as a regular object in this case, a digital clock. It had night vision, motion detection, and connected to an app on my phone. I felt guilty. I felt like I was betraying my marriage, violating Marcus's privacy, being paranoid and crazy. But I also felt terrified. And a mother's fear for her children overrides everything else. I set it up on my dresser, angled toward the bedroom door, and part of the hallway. That way, I could see if Marcus was leaving the room at night, and where he was going. The first 2 nights, nothing happened. Marcus slept soundly beside me, and I started to feel foolish. Maybe I really was overreacting. Maybe Tommy just needed to see a child psychologist. Maybe on the 3rd night, at 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I was actually awake, having trouble sleeping, so I immediately opened the app. The night vision footage showed Marcus getting out of bed. But it was the way he got up that made my skin crawl. His movements were mechanical, purposeful, like he'd done this hundreds of times before. He walked out of the room without a glance back at me. I waited 5 minutes, then quietly followed, phone in hand, watching the live feed as I moved through the house. Marcus wasn't in the bathroom, wasn't in the kitchen. The door to the garage was slightly ajar, and I could see a sliver of light underneath. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I crept closer and peered through the crack. What I saw made absolutely no sense. The garage had been transformed. Our cars were gone when had he moved them? The space was now filled with long tables covered in equipment I didn't recognize. Beakers, tubes, some kind of burner setup like a chemistry lab. Boxes and boxes stacked against the walls, labeled with codes I couldn't decipher. And Marcus, my husband, was wearing a respirator mask and gloves, carefully measuring white powder from one container into small plastic bags. My mind couldn't process it. This had to be a nightmare. This couldn't be real. I must have made a sound, a gasp, a whimper, something, because Marcus's head snapped toward the door. Our eyes met through the crack. Time stopped. Then Marcus ripped off his mask and lunged toward the door. I ran. I didn't think, I just ran back to the bedroom, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. I dove into bed and pretended to be asleep, praying he hadn't seen me clearly, praying I'd imagined it all. The bedroom door opened slowly. I felt Marcus's presence, felt him standing there, watching me. Every muscle in my body was tensed, ready to scream, to fight, to protect myself. After what felt like an eternity, the door closed. I heard his footsteps retreat. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I lay there in the dark, mind racing, trying to understand what I'd seen. My husband was cooking drugs. In our garage. With our children sleeping upstairs. As soon as the sun came up and Marcus left for work, I started investigating. First, I went to the garage. In the daylight, with Marcus gone, it looked completely normal. Our cars were there. His tools hung on their pegboard. The boxes I'd seen were gone. The tables and equipment had vanished like they'd never existed. For a moment, I questioned my sanity. Had I dreamed it? Had exhaustion and stress made me hallucinate? But no. I had the footage on my phone. I pulled it up with trembling hands and watched it again. Marcus leaving the bedroom. The timestamp, 2:47 a.m. I hadn't imagined it. Which meant Marcus was moving everything in and out. Every night. How was that even possible? How long had this been going on? I called in sick to my part-time job and dropped the kids at school, then came back home and started searching. Really searching. In Marcus's office, in a locked drawer I jimmied open with a screwdriver, I found a second phone. A burner phone, they call it in movies. It had dozens of contacts, all listed by single letters or numbers. The text messages were in code, but I could understand enough. Shipment ready Friday. Need 2K by Tuesday. New supply chain secured. There were also photos. Pictures of cash. Stacks and stacks of $100 bills. Pictures of the garage setup I'd seen. And pictures of men I didn't recognize. Men with hard faces and dangerous eyes. My husband wasn't just using drugs. He was dealing them. Manufacturing them. On a scale I couldn't even comprehend. I found a notebook too, hidden behind a false back in his desk drawer. Pages and pages of figures, transactions, names, addresses. Locations all over the state. Amounts that made my head spin. Marcus had been living a double life for who knows how long. The late nights at work weren't work at all. The business deals were drug deals. The money in our account, was any of it legitimate? And Tommy had known. Somehow, my 5-year-old son had witnessed enough to understand that something bad was happening. He tried to warn me and I dismissed it. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. I had a choice to make. I could call the police right then, turn in my husband, blow up my children's lives forever. Or I could confront him first, try to understand, try to get him to stop. Il chose confrontation. Maybe that was stupid. Maybe it was dangerous. But I needed to hear it from him. I needed to look him in the eyes and ask him how he could do this to us. That evening, after I put the kids to bed early, I waited for Marcus in the kitchen. I'd arranged the burner phone and the notebook on the table like evidence in a courtroom. When he walked in at 7 p.m. earlier than usual, his face drained of color the instant he saw what was on the table. Sarah Daunt. My voice was cold, hard, unrecognizable to my own ears. Don't you dare lie to me. I saw you. I have footage. I found everything. Marcus sank into a chair, his head in his hands. For a long moment he didn't speak. When he finally looked up, there were tears in his eyes. Real tears. I never wanted you to find out like this, he whispered. How long? 3 years. 3 years. Our entire life together for the past 3 years had been a lie. Why, Marcus? Why? And then he told me. The company he worked for had downsized, and he'd been demoted, his salary cut nearly in half. He'd been too proud to tell me, too ashamed. He'd met someone at a bar who offered him an opportunity to make real money. It started small, just selling a little on the side to friends. Then it grew. And grew. And grew until he was in so deep he couldn't get out. They'll kill me if I try to stop, Marcus said, his voice breaking. Sarah, I'm not exaggerating. These people don't let you just walk away. I've seen what they do to people who try. So you put our children at risk instead? I was shaking with rage. Do you understand what you've brought into our home? Do you understand what could happen if these people find out where you live? If police raid our house? Our children could be taken away. They could be hurt. I keep it separate. I'm careful. The garage is completely secure. Tommy saw you. I screamed. Our 5-year-old son has been having nightmares because he saw you. Emma is terrified of you. They know something is wrong, Marcus. Children always know. That stopped him cold. The realization that his children feared him seemed to hit harder than anything else I'd said. Oh God, he breathed. Oh God. What have I done? We talked for hours. That night. Marcus swore he'd stop, swore he'd find a way out, swore he'd never let his business associates find out where we lived or put us in danger. But I'd seen enough crime shows to know how this story usually ends. I gave him an ultimatum. You have 1 week to figure out how to get out of this safely. 1 week to clean out that garage and cut all ties. If you can't do it or won't do it, I'm taking the kids and I'm going to the police. Sarah, please 1 week, Marcus. That's all you get. Because I will not let our children grow up in this poison. I will not let them be collateral damage in your choices. Over the next 7 days, I watched my husband unravel. He barely slept. He was constantly on that burner phone, having tense, whispered conversations. He lost weight. His hands shook. But he was trying. I could see he was genuinely trying to find a way out. On the 6th day, Marcus came home looking different. There was a hardness in his eyes I'd never seen before, but also something like relief. I told them I'm out, he said. I told them I'm done. And I paid them everything I owed plus $50,000 as an exit fee. It's done, Sarah. It's over. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him so badly. Show me the garage. We went together. It was empty. Completely empty. Just our cars and tools and the normal clutter of family life. It's really over? I whispered. It's really over. I swear to you on our children's lives. I'm done. I'm going to make this right. I'll find a legitimate job. We'll move if we have to. Whatever it takes to keep you and the kids safe. I wanted to feel relieved. I wanted to feel like we could rebuild. But 3 days later, Marcus didn't come home from work. I received a call at 11 p.m. from a detective. Marcus had been found in his car in a parking garage downtown. Someone had shot him twice in the chest. He died instantly. The police investigation revealed everything. The drug operation, the connections to a larger network, the money laundering. They raided our home. Searched everything. Questioned me for hours. I had to prove I didn't know. I had to show them the footage, the timeline of my discovery, my own evidence that I'd been trying to get him to stop. Eventually, they believed me. I wasn't charged. But the damage was done. The house was seized as proceeds of crime. Our bank accounts frozen. Everything we owned or thought we owned was taken away. And I had to sit my babies down and tell them that Daddy was never coming home. Tommy still has nightmares. Emma is in therapy. I moved us 3 states away, changed our last name, started over from nothing. But we're alive. We're safe. And slowly, very slowly, we're healing. I'm sharing this story for one reason. If your child tells you something is wrong, listen. Children see things we miss. They sense danger we've trained ourselves to rationalize away. I ignored the warning signs. I chose to believe in the illusion of my perfect life instead of trusting my son's fear. Don't make my mistake. Pay attention to behavioral changes, to fear responses, to those little warnings that seem like nothing but mean everything. Your intuition and your children's intuition exist for a reason. Honor them. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever ignored a warning sign you later regretted, please leave a comment below. Share your story. You never know who might need to hear it. Subscribe to Tales with Aunt Clara for more real stories from real people. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. And remember, trust your instincts. They might just save your life.